Good afternoon from Singapore and a very warm welcome to you wherever you are joining us from. Thank you very much for spending time with us today. We will get started in a few minutes once most of today's attendees have had a chance to join the webinar, so please bear with us until then. And while you're waiting for us to get started, I invite you to enjoy two short videos that show you a day in the life of the high school on both campuses. So hello again, my name is Katie Phantom and I am the Deputy Director of Admissions at the college. I will just take a few minutes just to introduce the program and to go through a few protocols for today's High School East and Dover Open Day. As you know, this year we are offering you the chance to connect with us both virtually and in person. So in addition to today's webinar, we also have our on-campus open days for East High School this Thursday morning and Dover High School this Friday morning. So if you have signed up for that, we very much look forward to welcoming you to campus. And if you haven't signed up and are free to attend, the sign up is still open for you. So the first 30 to 40 minutes of today's webinar will be devoted to a presentation about the learning program in the high school at both campuses led by our principals. The presentation will be followed by about 20 to 30 minutes of questions and answers related to the learning program, when we will be joined by the vice principals from both campuses. Please keep the focus of your questions on the learning program and student experience within each school. And as you listen to this presentation, feel free to submit questions via the question and answer button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. There will be a separate 30-minute question and answer session on admissions when you will have the time to ask admissions-related questions. And please note that the presentation about the learning program will be recorded and will also be available on our website following this event. The link will also be sent to all of those who registered for today's event. So it is now my very great pleasure to introduce you to our high school principals on our Dover campus, Seema Desai, and on our East campus, Damien Batu. Over to you, Seema.
Thank you, Katie. A very warm welcome to UWCSEA and to our joint webinar. My name is Seema Desai, and I'm the high school principal here at Dover. I'm delighted to be joined by the vice principal. So we have Izumi, who is the vice principal for grade 9 and 10. Rebecca is the vice principal for grade 11 and 12. Andrew is our vice principal and IBDP coordinator. And Pippa, who is the vice principal for high school curriculum. Next, please. Just to tell you a little bit about myself, I'm new to UWCSEA this year. I'm originally Indian, but I'm also very much a global citizen. I have lived in lots of different parts of the world, most recently in Dubai, where I was for the past 15 years. And I'm absolutely delighted and thrilled to be here as the high school principal as of August. My family are still in Dubai, and so is my partner and his 2 children. I'm just going to pass you over to Damien now. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Seema. So the East High School leadership team. So my name's Damien Bachu, the high school principal, and joining us slightly later in the presentation, but you might spot them in the little pictures here and there, is Kate, who's our vice principal for grade 9 and 10. We've got Ted, who's vice principal for grades 11 and 12, and we have Gemma, who's our IB coordinator. Next. And yeah, there's my family, my team. We've been in Singapore for a couple of years now. My wife Kelly's a TA in the school, and I've got my 3 children there. I think they're in grade 7 and 5. Believe it or not, there's some twins there. They're absolutely loving school here. They're flourishing. We're really delighted. We made the move here, and we'll sort of try and show you why it's a good place to land. Next. So this slide you may have seen before. This is our UWC mission, and if you take a moment to just to sort of read through that, and it won't be the first time. Hopefully, you'll be invited to do that. The reason we put it up front and center and nice and early is that it forms so much of what it is to be a UWC member of the community, whether as a student, as a teacher, as a parent, or anyone else working here. I always invite people to think what it says about us, what it says about what learning and teaching might look like in the school here. One of the interesting things here, for example, is it doesn't say that our mission is to go to a great university or get a great job. It's a very distinguished UWC mission, and when we say there's an education like no other, this is at the heart of what we mean to be a school like no other. Next. So yeah, we're not alone in that mission. That UWC mission is shared across the globe in 18 other UWC schools and colleges. What I might point out, though, is that the size of this particular college is substantial. It's if you were to count up all of the students in all of the other UWCs, they would actually just about fit into this college. So we're quite a different outfit in terms of size as well. So next slide. This is something which we get quite excited about. Obviously, not everyone, but I certainly do. This is what we call our guiding statements, and the guiding statements are just that. You'll hopefully see them here. If you come and join us, you'll see them again, and we'll spend more time talking you through each of those. But what it explains in our guiding statement is about how we work as a school, how we think as a school, how we behave as a school at every single level of involvement, whether a student, a member of staff, or we invite parents who join the community as well to think in terms of being guided in these ways. Seema and I will actually go through some of these bits as we go through this presentation. So what I'll do is I'll move on to the first part of these guiding statements. And the first one of these little circles on our guiding statements, the things that help frame our thinking, is around what we call the well-being principles and the learning principles. They're not isolated. They don't sit as just learning principles or just well-being principles. We very much are aware that the best learning and when students flourish and when they're learning well will be when they are being looked after well, and when students feel secure and happy and well, their learning flourishes too. Next slide. So our actual well-being principles are connected, autonomous, and competent. And you'll know as parents and students that when you feel connected, that you feel that you're at home, this makes you feel like you belong and you can be happy. When you feel autonomous, when you're making choices that you would like to do things, for example, this young lady here is doing something I hope she enjoys. Not sure I would enjoy that. It looks like an Oculus. But that ability to pick things that actually fascinate you, to study courses that you want to study, to find activities that you want to do. These are all important pieces of feeling like you're in control of your own learning. And obviously, isn't there a better feeling in the world than feeling like you are competent, to know that you can do something, to have the experience of being in an environment where you'll learn well and know that you've achieved and what it feels to be competent is quite a magical thing too. So these well-being principles are a large part of being here too. Next. We also have a profile and some values and competencies, and I won't spend too much time on these, but suffice to say that we'll have all been aware of all sorts of skills that everyone in the world needs to have to be able to do, and some qualities and what values and etc. that drive us. Our ones have been chosen because we think that they best meet our mission. That very first slide on that UWC mission, the education like other, we really do believe in a commitment to care, that we need to be principled, to be resilient, to be self-aware. And the skills that we've chosen to focus on here about the critical thinking, communicating, collaborating, etc., really do create the types of students that we would wish to enact our mission. And our values and our competencies are there too. Next. So we'll now spend some time talking about the learning program at UWCSEA. If we go to the next slide. The important piece here is that we often talk about a holistic education. And a holistic education is that it is part of a whole. There are five elements of our learning program that make it holistic. We've got academics, activities, outdoor ed, personal and social education, and service. So five elements. Now, each on their own are not where we would wish to be. And we're a school that believes that each of the five elements contributes to a holistic education and our ability to enact that mission. There is a focus on disciplinary and interdisciplinary learning. But we also know how important it is to have an experiential piece of our learning activity. So it's not all in a one set context, perhaps sat behind a chair all the time. And this idea of transfer of learning is so important because we believe that what is learnt in activities, for example, or in outdoor education, or in service, or in PSE, or in academics, they can all support other aspects of the learning program. We often find that what is learnt, for example, on an outdoor education experience can transcend in amazing ways into the classroom too. Next slide. And it doesn't matter what entry point you come in at, whether you're coming in at grade 9, 10, or 11, you'll note that there's the same focus on the five elements. Next slide. So I'm going to pass over to Seema, who's going to pick up one of the elements here, which is personal and social education.
Hi, everyone. So personal social education, which is also known as PSE, is a vital pillar of our holistic education program. Next, please. it is also a key that unlocks learning in the other 4 elements of our learning program. This program really is important as we wish to bring student well-being at the forefront of their human development. Not only do we wish to support our students through their social and emotional issues, but we also hope to support them to cultivate positive well-being for themselves. We want our students to thrive, and I would assume that as parents, this is something that you wish for your child as well. Next. Caring for student well-being is a shared responsibility of every single member of our community and all of our staff here. Each student belongs to a mentor group and meets with their mentor daily. And through this regular contact develops a sense of belonging, which is really, really important as we talk about those well-being principles as well. We know that learning is more effective when the learner feels secure and supported. So during this mentor time, we focus on students forming positive relationships with each other and also with their people around them. The mentor cares for the student's social, emotional, and physical well-being. However, like I said earlier, each student has a network of caring adults to rely on, and these include the heads of grades, their counselors, their activity coaches, and of course, their subject teachers. We have a dedicated team of professionals creating a culture of care around every single student. Next. It's often stated that at the heart of our mission is being in the service of others. And it's actually one of the reasons why I chose to be at UWCSEA, and it's another key learning element. Next. In the same way as we have overarching learning objectives for all our students in the outdoor education curriculum, we have the same for our service learning curriculum. So all students engage in age-appropriate curriculum-linked service learning linked directly to these 3 service learning standards, which are awareness. By developing awareness, skills, and qualities, individuals can become determined global citizens who recognize their ability to enact positive change. The second one of these is sustainable development and systems thinking, where individuals and groups can plan to engage effectively in the sustainable development of local and global communities. And the third one is about taking action and being a change maker. By taking informed, purposeful action, individuals and groups can act as change makers, contributing to the sustainable development of local and global communities. Next. Links are made where possible in the academic curriculum, and in high school, these links are very, very intentional. The service learning program, combined with activities in outdoor education, which Damien will talk about in a minute, intentionally supports students to also complete the creativity, activity, and service requirements in the IB Diploma core so that they can achieve their IB Diploma. Service encompasses these different strands, which are college level service, Singapore local service, global service, and also our student service leadership groups. These are, of course, intentionally facilitated in the high school program. College service includes examples like high school students assisting in the infant school classrooms, grade 9 students working as assistant coaches in the junior school and middle school, gardening. We have a rainforest restoration program. And recently, the UWC director, Faith Abiodun, came to our college as we celebrated our 50-year anniversary. And one of his highlights was a tour of our gardens by our younger students, where they passionately showed him the differences between dill and papaya, which was very nice. Local Singapore service can encompass many different types of service. We have partnerships with nursing homes, senior activity centres, training centres for people with persons with intellectual disabilities. And actually the image that you see here is one that I personally really like, because it really embodies what service learning is all about. And it is a Special Olympics swim coaching, which takes place every Saturday morning in the Dover swimming pool, where we have 20 young adults with various intellectual disabilities being coached by mainly high school students. I also want to share my own experience of service with you, and it's one of the reasons why I chose to come to UWCSEA. I participate in a service with our grade 11 students, where we have students from New Life Centre, which is a care centre for students who require, for young children who require a bit of extra care as their parents may be working and not able to pick them up from school. They travel to us every Friday afternoon, and our grade 11 students plan activities for them that develop their skills and also while they're having fun. It is an incredibly powerful service learning opportunity for our students as well as for me. Next. I'll pass over to Damien, who's going to talk to you about activities. Thanks.
Yeah, good. Well, hopefully we're not going back too much back and forth, but yeah, another one of our elements, activities. There's so many to choose from on either campus. I think they're well into the hundreds on either campus. But why do we do activities? It's at the forefront of it. We've already explained in the context of our holistic education, but more than anything else, these are vital skills that can be learned just as well or better outside of the classroom. So we want young people to lead. We want young people to learn how to persevere and to lose gracefully, to win gracefully, how to encourage teammates, how to develop lifelong passions. And, you know, lifelong passions don't happen by magic. They have to be cultivated, and we need space at school to make that happen. But what always strikes me about this school, and I've felt it with my own children here, who absolutely love their activities, is that what we're looking to do here is to focus on getting students learning all the time, and no matter what they're doing. So there's so much to learn from persevering, from losing, from encouraging, and to developing these passions. And my fundamental belief, and I think most of my colleagues here, would be that that some of those skills you learn in activities might just be the most important skills that they learn at school, bar none. And certainly around the dinner table at home, you know, so many rich conversations about growing up and talking about wider things outside the classroom. They stem from participating in activities. So huge fan, and I hope it's something that you might look forward to here. Next slide. It's quite an intentional program. It's not a scattergun where we just put everything out there and you just sort of work your way through hundreds of lists. There's a lot of thought being put into what activities we can focus on. Some of them are groups, so it's very easy for people to find areas of passion, and they might stay within those areas, or they might move across them. Another feature is that we look to build developmental opportunities throughout the program. So you might want to try something for the first time. It might be a beginner session. Some of our students here develop skills over time, and they become more proficient, and they want to be challenged in different ways. And there's room for beginners, and there's room for students to develop high mastery on our programs as well. Again, a superb program. Next slide. We've got a little video, so enjoy. That's superb. Yeah, so element 5, I was going to say the last element, but that wouldn't be fair to outdoor education. I've just said they're all important. So the 5th element, if I may, is outdoor education. And if you go to the next slide. Again, the outdoor education program is one of the pillars of what it is to be a UWC student and to get involved with. No surprise that there's a lot of intentionality and a lot of planning that goes into the outdoor education curriculum. Everything's thought through. We have professional staff whose job it is to think deeply and to work as professionals running the outdoor education curriculum for us here. A lot of the thinking goes across how do we relate some of the learning from outdoor education into the personal and social education program. How do we make it age appropriate? How do we nurture and get students excited about the connections to nature, how to understand themselves, about relationships with others? And when we go away on outdoor education, we go on trips, we find out that we about relationships in a different way than we might around the school building. I still remember trips that I did where I had to I found out new friends that I didn't have before, because I found that I never was in a context to enjoy their company. And equally, I found out that I didn't like other people, and I had to work my way through that as well. This is a natural circle of life piece. And developing these new social skills is just quite exciting. A real feature when we talk to students about what it is to be here too. So next slide. It looks different in different grades. Some students in the middle and primary, it also looks different as they go through the whole of the school. But in grade 9, COVID dependent, and again we're ramping up again back into our activities as other parts of the world are. But expedition options in grade 9, in grade 10, and in grade 11, which we can talk about some other later on. I think if you've got some questions, we have a project week which gives another invitation for our older students to test themselves and to explore in a more independent fashion as well. Next slide. Oh, I'm not on the fifth element. Sorry, there we are. I've left academics as the fifth element, so ignore me. There we are. Academics is our final one, and it can have the fifth element piece. So what do we actually teach in the classroom piece is the academics. We go next slide. Shouldn't be a surprise that there'll be differences for different grades. And on this particular slide, we've got students who are coming into grade 9. We have two programs. We have an IGCSE program, or we have a UWCSEA program. The IGCSE courses are 2-year courses, and there's some exams at the end of grade 10, and they're more well known because they're run in other schools around the world as well. And we also have our UWCSEA courses, which are run here. They are 1- and 2-year courses, and they are designed specially by us as a school, and we are more aligned in this particular program to the IB and some of the teaching and learning for that program. At Dover, grade 9s can take one UWCSEA course. Everyone takes the English literature course, and then they get an option to select a combination of GCSE or UWCSEA courses. East, grade 9 students either follow the full UWC program or the GCSE program. Next slide. And in grade 10, regardless, we have, if you come in just in grade 10, then all the grade 10 entrants would take the UWC course. And just to sum those up, they are modular, they're flexible, they're aligned to the IB, very focused unapologetically, and no surprise, I hope, on our mission and our values. Probably going to be looking at things like international and global peace, for example, and sustainability. They're in the mission, aren't they? So no surprise. And also, because we believe in interdisciplinary learning, that there'll be opportunities to collaborate and think across different disciplines as well. So quite an exciting program. In grade 11, next slide. Oh, well, here's the point. So whether in grade 9 or grade 10, you're following IGCSE courses or programs, or the UWC program or courses, it's exactly the same destination. We're aiming to give probably going to be a different experience, but everyone is going to be prepared for the IB Diploma in grade 11 and 12. Okay, so same destination, different experience. And if we go to the next slide, I'll try and explain where we're going. A little video as well. There we go. I'll come back. We want more alignment with the IB Diploma that we do in grade 11. The way they learn, explore, focus on concepts and skills, and what we choose to learn in the classroom is being curated to prepare our students for the diploma program, which they'll do in due course.
I think the new programme is a really exciting opportunity for us. I think we're very excited here in the high school maths department about what it enables us to do. It gives us lots of freedom to explore areas of mathematics that we want to explore with students. It enables us to dig deeper into concepts, and it enables us to be more mission aligned, to explore into avenues of mathematics outside the classroom that links to lots of other things that they're learning in other parts of the curriculum.
Yeah, what I really like about the new program is that the kids' learning is so much more focused on the process instead of the end goal. Of course, we do tests, we do assessments, etc. But it's really about them and their learning process. They're developing their own understanding of what is history, what is relevant, etc. So it's much more focused on the process itself of learning instead of what kind of tests are we working towards to.
I think for this science course, I think there's a lot of opportunities for students to engage with their own identity through science. Traditionally, science is delivered quite as a Western Eurocentric version of the scientific story, but here we're finding opportunities to look at both Eastern influences as well as students engaging with scientists from their own culture and to seeing what their background, what their home has contributed to these scientific ideas.
Probably just the subject selections in general. I really enjoy the subjects I chose were extra English and extra science. And I've been really enjoying those subjects because everyone that chose them are really passionate about the subjects.
I liked the family history unit because it was a very new approach to learning history because I learned things that I normally wouldn't have learned. And it's very interesting to kind of know where I'm from and know my background because that makes me who I am. And that's also a huge part of history because it influences the present and the future.
And next slide, there we go. So starting at the bottom then, in the blue, grade 9 and grade 10 students in whatever entry you come into the college will eventually finish in grade 9 and 10. And we're thinking, what do we do next? And the answer is we'll make choices for grade 11. We have two of the green boxes here. The IB Diploma program is the main program that we run here across the college for grades 11 and 12. It's a 2-year program of study. There are some students who may do the IB courses of study, and these are courses that are in the IB program, but they might not be doing the full number. Most students do the IB Diploma program, and if you've not come across it, you'll have plenty of opportunities to learn more about the IB Diploma program. Suffice to say that it is 6 subjects, 3 of them in more depth and 3 of them in slightly less depth, and all of the program is contributing towards our high school diploma. And then we'll be supporting students to life after UWCSEA. And our students, many of them, as you know, will go on to university or gap years. Some students will go into national service if they're Singaporean, and also others will do pre-university work. All of these pathways are things that are covered in huge detail at the school on both campuses as we go through each of the grades. And we support parents and students on each of the stages as we go through. Next slide, please. And grade 11, then if you're coming in grade 11, to make the point here again, then that we're all working to a high school diploma. Some of our students will, or the majority will receive it through studying through the IB Diploma. And some will still achieve the high school diploma through some IB courses of study. Next slide, please. Great, I pass back over to Seema.
Thanks, Damien. Before I talk about outcomes, can I please remind you all to put any questions that you may have in the Q&A chat, please, and we look forward to answering those very soon. So we hope that you've had a really good flavour of our learning programme and also our holistic education. And I want to take a little bit of time really to talk about what does it mean to be a graduate of UWCSEA. We're going to start on the next slide with a perspective from one of our counsellors, Pamela, who's going to share with you her thoughts.
So universities have international students applying from different systems around the world, and they're well versed in evaluating different transcripts and credentials. UK universities may have IGCSE requirements for A-level students, but that's because A-level students often don't take math and English at grades 11 and 12. Of course, IB students can demonstrate proficiency in those subjects through both their IB grades and their subjects in FIB or in UWCSEA's grade 9-10 program, as these are deemed equivalent to IGCSEs. No one in East's first graduating class, the class of 2014, took IGCSEs, and their university placements were just as robust as impressive as any other classes. Historical data suggests that the universities will view the grade 9-10 program as excellent preparation for university.
Thank you. So as you can imagine, our alum can be really quite impressive. And this slide here shows you some of the stories of some of them. And if you look at the captions that are there, you can see how closely they are aligned to our mission. My goal is to make a positive impact. I was inspired to initiate a positive transformation. I seek to engineer a better world, and so on. I've been really lucky since joining Dover to have had the opportunity to interact with one of our alum. His name is Q, and he visited us during UWC Day, where he held a peace workshop for our high school students. He's an alum from UWC Pearson and also a former Dover teacher, which is quite nice. He left us to go and study peace education, and he's now working in peace education consultancy. This is what I find most interesting. He's also been doing extensive hands-on restorative work with youth in conflict zones in Myanmar and southern Thailand. So is really able to speak powerfully and meaningfully to our students about what living the mission can really look like. We also were delighted to have had a visit from Nadeem Makaram. Some of you may know who he is. He is a UWCSEA alum. He's also the founder of Zalora and Gojek, and he's currently the Minister of Education, Culture, Research and Technology for Indonesia. He spoke to our grade 11 and 12 students about the path that he took since graduating from college, his achievement, what he learned, and how the UWC mission played a role in his life. And some of the conversations that he had were really quite interesting about his time in the boarding house. So some really very powerful stories there. Next. We're also quite proud of our DP results and the students who graduate from UWCSEA's Global Citizens, who will embrace the challenge and take responsibility for shaping a better world. Last year, we were 6th above the world average. This year, we're 6.5 above the world average. This is our biggest difference ever. We also had a significant increase in the number of bilingual diplomas, which is a real credit to our language A programs, and I think also just speaks to the diversity that we have here at UWCSEA. Next. I'll just share with you a video of some of our university destinations.
I'm Kenzie and I am headed towards Australian National University in Canberra to study political science, and I am super excited to meet new people and experience uni life.
My name is Arena. I'm going to study engineering and architecture at Technical University of Eindhoven, and I'm most excited about the beginning of my studies.
Hi, my name is Larania and I'm planning to pursue medicine in the UK at St. George's University of London. So I'm planning to study medicine and I'm most looking forward to getting out and exploring new things.
Hi, I'm Akash Nambudri. I'll be heading to the University of Washington in Seattle to study engineering. I'm most looking forward to studying in a big campus and meeting different types of people, but also following my passion for engineering and sustainability.
Hi, my name is Brooke and I'm from Kenya. I'll be going to Middlebury College to study international politics with economics with a minor in Spanish, and I look forward to learning how to ski. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Arjun, and after graduation, I will be serving my national service and I will be in the Army. What I look forward to the most is learning a new set of skills and having an experience that I think is unique, and it's something that not a lot of people get to have.
I'm Daisy, and I'm going to be studying life sciences at the University of Toronto, and I'm most looking forward to exploring the culturally diverse city of Toronto and being on my own and independent.
My name is Ananya. I'm hoping to study law in the UK, hopefully at UCL, and I'm excited to study a subject that I have not studied at UWC, and I'm excited to explore my passion further.
Hi, I'm Sunny. I'm going to be studying medicine either in London or Singapore, and I'm most excited to meet new people.
Thank you. I'm now going to hand you back to Katie.
Thank you very much, Seema. So I'd like to bring your vice principals in at this point and hand over to my colleague, Kate, who will moderate this question and answer session. So VPs, if you'd like to turn your videos on. Wonderful. Over to you, Kate.
Thank you so much, Katie, and thank you, Damien and Seema, for taking us through the overview of the high school program. We've had quite a lot of very engaged audience members asking a lot of questions, which I'm very grateful to have you both and your teams on the call to be able to answer these questions, or some of them. We'll spend about 15 or 20 minutes going through some of these questions. And if I end up asking a question that you would also like to call on your counterpart on East or Dover to share their perspective, please feel free to do so. But my first question is really with regard to, and I've had a lot of questions on the difference between the courses and the IGCSE. And what's inspired that. So I actually just noticed that Damien's got his camera off, so that might be a little bit. Damien, hello, thank you very much for coming back, because you were volunteering to answer the question about the courses and the curriculum, and what is the different approach there? What will be different for those students as they move into IB?
Sorry, just clarify, Kate. So the difference between
IGCSE and the UWCSEA courses, as those students move into IB, what will be different for them, and how will they be prepared if they're doing the courses, given that it doesn't have the external examinations?
Sure. I think at the forefront of the answer is that the programs are being developed specifically to prepare them for the IB. So the same teachers teaching the IB program will be teaching on both the GCSE and the UWC programs. So what sort of things are different in a GCSE program? Often they're characterized by an end of course. So at the end of 2 years, there's a large examinations process that often go on over 10 weeks over the summer. I went through that myself, and I remember the summer exams feel. And there's a lot of preparation for passing those tests. So we will often describe that experience as preparing for that final examination, as it were, or teaching to the test. We have to make sure we do well in that test. So a lot of preparation for that. On the UWC program, what we're looking at is looking at a variety of different ways of assessing young people to show that they know stuff. Sometimes that will be, as we've said, sometimes that will be in an exam at the end of the course, but sometimes it will come in short bits of coursework or presentations. And they are the same types of variation in exams as you would get in the IB program. And on the IB program, there are often 3 or 4 ways of students showing their learning, and we wanted to have some of that replicated in the grade 9 and 10 experience. So the question about how we're preparing students on a UWC program for the IB one of the ways is that we are looking at the ways that they will be assessed on the IB course and trying to replicate that. That's one way that we're preparing them. One of the things as well on the UWC program is we know that when students get to the IB program, sometimes there's been so much focus on learning knowledge and memorizing for tests that they might not always, and sometimes they might not have developed some of the skills that are required in the IB courses. So that would be something that we would enable to have more thought on. Now, these are nuances. We maintain that we prepare students very well on either program. So the focus really isn't about which course will prepare me best for IB. It's actually about what type of learning experience would you like? What would you like learning and teaching to feel like? And that will often come down to individual preferences. So it's quite open. Kate, I can't hear you, so sorry.
Thank you for reminding me I was on mute. In terms of the grade 9 and 10 program, we've introduced that, and this year is the first year that we've run the full program on East Campus. What is likely to happen for these students in terms of their university applications? Is there going to be any difference in how the universities might approach their application if they've done a UWC course versus if they've done the IGCSE?
Yeah, I'm quite happy to answer. Maybe one of the vice principals, or maybe Ted works in grade 11 and 12, or Pippa as well. Do you want to, Ted, do you want to have a go?
Sure. I think I'll probably just reiterate what Pamela, our head of university advising, said in her video, is that we've had a full cohort of students go through and have university applications very successfully in our first year of East, where they were all on our foundation IB program, our FIB program. So really, we've just taken that program that's been developing over years for our incoming grade 10s, and we've expanded that to make it a grade 9 and 10 program. So we don't see any differences for university outcomes in the end from either program.
Fantastic, thanks, Ted. And in terms of university preparation and university outcomes, at what time and what point in a student's life at UWC do we start preparing them? Perhaps Ted or Rebecca, you could maybe take that one.
I'm happy to take that one again. If to you, Rebecca. Generally, we start with a meeting in grade 10. So after students have made their course selections in grade 10 for their grade 11 year, they will have an opportunity to meet with a university advisor purely to confirm that the courses that they've selected get them to where their kind of dream destination or dream program is at the moment. Of course, for lots of students, that changes and morphs over their final 2 years through grade 11 and 12. But that's when it begins. And then the beginning of grade 11, around November, we have a large parent presentation, I believe at both campuses, where we introduce parents to the nuances of applying to the various countries around the world and various programs, and it progresses from there.
Fantastic, thank you. And so there is a process by which we will support students to select their subjects when they're moving into the IB from grade 10. Can I ask though, if students are in grade 9 and in the courses program, are they able to change subjects, or are they committed to that subject for the full 2 years of the course? Damien, perhaps you could field that one.
I wonder if Kate, do you want to have a go on that one? It's or do you want me to have a go? Don't mind.
No, that's fine. Did you say for grade 9?
Yes, so if they come in the grade 9 courses and they discover actually that perhaps the course that they've chosen is not necessarily the thing that they want to pursue for the full 2 years, are the students able to change in grade 10?
That's trickier with the IGCSE program. Because of the structure in place as dictated by the exam board, so that gets a little trickier. But certainly for the UWC program, that is actually built into the very flexibility of the course. that there can be new options made, new choices made at the end of grade 9.
Fantastic. That's very handy to hear. So if a student is already studying IGCSE and wants to come in at grade 10, would they be able to continue on with their IGCSE program, or will they need to take up the UWC courses?
They would need to take up the UWC program. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you.
Was there something else to add on that one? Because that was a sort of east nuance and maybe some Dover nuance.
Yes, I just wanted to say on the Dover front, obviously our courses are being designed. We've got a number of courses that are 2-year courses and a number of UWCSEA courses that are 1-year courses. We are still developing our full programme of UWCSEA courses. We're very excited about those, and once we have that full programme in place, then as with East, we'll have that option for the grade 9 to change subject between grade 9 and grade 10 within the UWCSEA courses. But that does come with us having the full programme, which is not quite there at the moment for us on Dover. But likewise with East, certainly the grade 9, 10, the IGCSEs are 2-year courses, and you are committed to those for the 2 years. And just as with East, any students coming in grade 10, they will join our UWCSEA courses.
Fantastic, thank you, Pippa. And so when a student joins Dover, I understand that they can choose a selection of UWCSEA courses and IGCSE together. And one of the major differences, I guess, which is what I've been asked in the questions, is that on East, there is the decision to be made on entry as to whether you are following the UWCSEA courses or IGCSE. That's correct? For a grade 9 entry point?
At the moment, that's the way it is, yeah. And the question really is, why is there a little difference between the two campuses? It's we're a year off being able to have an identical program. This is quite an exciting development to be able to define a program as a college. And we've taken a slightly different innovation route to that one, but both going in the same destination point, which is we can get to a full program. So at East, it's a full program one way or the other. At Dover, there's some optionality to do one or the other, and to mix and match, as it were, if I'm going to paraphrase. And that's really something that we've worked through to basically accelerate ourselves through developing a new product. But by next year, we'll be able to have both pretty quickly in the same position.
Fantastic, thank you, Damien. And I'm sure that we can assist any questions that you might have with regard to your particular child's situation in a one-to-one interview with our admissions team, should you have further questions on what might be best for your child. I have a couple of questions with regard to more general ideas around how the campus runs. In terms of the class sizes and the size of the mentor groups in grade 9 and 10 and 11 and 12, perhaps one of the vice principals could give me an overview of how many students are in grade 9 and 10 mentor classes, and then how many students might be in grade 11 and 12. What are the group sizes? Izumi, do you want to take the one for the grade 9 and 10?
For grade 9 and 10, we're looking around 16 students per mentor group. And maybe Rebecca, you can speak to the grade 11 and 12.
Yeah, and then in grade 11 and 12, it goes to around 14 per mentor group.
Great, thank you. And can I just confirm, in terms of the popular subjects, I guess, so the ones that everybody particularly takes, how large are the class sizes for the subjects like maths and for the sciences, for example? Rebecca, perhaps you could start with the IB subjects.
I just noticed Andrew, I think, is probably best placed to answer that one.
Yeah, I can speak to that. So, so we're about 16 students. So for IB classes, the aim is about sort of 16 students as a sort of our maximum number. I mean, some classes will be slightly smaller. If you're studying, say, a different language, it might be a little bit smaller, but that's sort of where we aim. And that's a nice number in terms of both collaboration in terms of the class, but also a chance for the teacher to have that time to give that sort of individualized support and feedback in the IB classes.
Fantastic, thank you. That's very helpful, thank you. I think that's answered a number of different questions in the Q&A part. Can I just switch, you've mentioned languages, Andrew, and I'm going to just jump into the question of languages. Perhaps Pippa, you could start off with this, but do we offer English as an additional language classes? How do we support second language speakers of English, given we are an English medium school?
Yes, absolutely, we do. We have English as a second language classes for our students who are maybe a little less confident with their English skills, and that helps to support them develop their language skills across all of their subjects and all of their curriculum. I will say that as an English medium school, one of the things we notice about our students is that their level of English, whatever level of English they come in with into high school, it does develop very quickly. But yes, absolutely, we do have on offer English as a second language at GCSE. And we also have English language B, higher level within the IB program for our students as well. We have a number of talented linguists, many of whom follow first languages that are other than English.
Fantastic. And can you please explain with regard to the policy with regard to taking a second language? Do all students take two languages within the academic program?
So certainly within the full IB diploma, for the full IB diploma, students need to take a first and a foreign language or a language acquisition course. So as they come through grades 9 and 10, obviously language development is something that takes time, and we want to make sure that they're continuing their language skills and developing their language skills through grades 9 and 10. Occasionally we have some students who join us who don't have a foreign language that's already underway, and then when they come through to the IB, they may find that an ab initio course is the way for them to go, to pick up a language. When I say ab initio, that's a very new term to me when I came here. That's taking up a language as a brand new subject, a language that they have no prior experience of. So that's an option for them at IB if they don't have a language that they're continuing all the way through.
Great. And do we insist that students continue to follow a language that they've followed previously, or can they actually switch into an ab initio language?
So in terms of language development, it's to get to a competent level in a language does take time. So I think we'd always encourage students where possible to continue with a language that they've started with. But yes, absolutely, sometimes for students a fresh start, or their priorities may change, or their family circumstances may change, they may be heading somewhere else in the world, and they may want to get a foundation in a new language. So at that point, if they have no prior experience of that language and we have it on offer for the IB subjects, then they have that choice to change to an ab initio subject, yes.
Fantastic, thanks Pippa. Kate, can I just ask you a question with regard to supporting students join us in grade 10 in terms of the level of support that we provide them in I guess the pastoral program or the personal and social education program to adjust coming into the school, into the cohort. The person that's asked the question has noticed that there's not a large group, and they're just wondering with regard to how we help them to join at such a critical stage when they don't have necessarily a lot of time. They've got a year to adjust into the IB program and the rigors and demands of that.
So joining in grade 10?
Yes, joining in grade 10 particularly.
Yeah, so we have buddy systems to help students get to know their peers, the larger community of peers, and they'll be in mentor groups with other new students, so they're not alone in that experience. And then there are regular check-ins throughout, paying particular attention to their needs and their how they're feeling as they settle in. In terms of the academic demands, and they'll be as prepared as anyone is. They'll just have that extra support really for making sure that individually they are feeling more settled into the community. I don't know if Dover wants to add to that any other processes or approaches that they feel is helpful for our grade 10 entry.
I think we have a very similar approach, and in terms of just social emotionally, it's very important that the students who are joining us in G10, they have connections with each other. especially because it's such a big school. And so we make sure to cultivate opportunities for them to go on a trip at the beginning of the school year for a whole week, so that they can find that connection with each other, which is very important. And as Kate mentioned, we find ways for them to connect with the rest of the community. And yes, and we do pay particular attention to them in terms of making sure that mentors are checking in and are communicating with the families about how they're adjusting. So those are some of the approaches that we're taking.
Great, thank you. Thanks so much for sharing that. I know that those approaches go across all, but because the grade 10 entry has been such a small cohort in the past, there are some questions very specifically with regard to that. I have a question that is it's around terminology. So can I just confirm that the Foundation IB program that we have previously offered is actually now called UWCSEA Grade 10 Courses? So I'm seeing everybody nodding. So yes, that is the case. And that is a one-year program. So thank you very much for asking and confirming that for everyone. Can I get on to, please, with regard to the university placements? I've got one more question with regard to that. And in terms of being able to support our students to apply to non-traditional universities, what sort of support do we provide for individual students who might want a path that's slightly different from what we saw in some of those students in the video? So I'm not quite sure who to direct this one to, but in terms of how do we support students actually find their path if they're not looking for a not particularly traditional path?
I can jump in and answer a little bit on that one. I would say that close to 100% of our students do look for that traditional path eventually at some point. They may just take some alternate routes to get there. So a number of our students would take national service, and so we'll support them through that transition into national service. But then they'll come back and use us again to find their traditional pathway after that. Some students will be looking for a gap year, and our university advisors can help a little bit with that, but we also have our service and our outdoor ed department that sometimes help with guiding students as to following their interests, wherever they might want to be for that gap year as well. There are a number of countries that offer other tertiary education, not specifically university or colleges, and our university advisors again would help. So there may be misnamed university advisors, but they do work with students and whatever their future plans want to be.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ted. I know they have quite good relationships with universities all over the world, and we have a variety of different experience that they're bringing to the university advising, and career counselling is what I've seen also on their titles at some point as well. So I know that they are well supported by a dedicated advisor through their time at UWCSEA. With regard to the difference between UWCSEA the IB sub-courses of study and the IB Diploma. Seema or Damien, or perhaps Pippa, who would like to take that particular question and explain what the difference is, and perhaps can you give us a sense, if you're able to, of the number of students that would choose either path? And do they need to choose it, or do we select that for them?
I can step in, Kate, a little bit. I supported like a lot of students for those kind of conversations over the last couple of years. So a lot of it determined, so that sort of the choice between their IB courses, which I guess is a bit more bespoke. So students will select, a range of subjects and at the range of levels which they feel is kind of appropriate challenge for them, but also based on where they kind of looking to go in the future. So a lot of kind of collaboration with our university advisors, which I think university advisors is a bit of a misnomer, right? It's kind of the careers future advice. So I take a lot of guidance from them around if they would like to go to, say, the US and study, particularly make it like a different college, or back to Australia perhaps to study. And then that decision, I think, for a family can influence what choice you would like to take in terms of courses or the full IB Diploma. I mean, the full IB Diploma is rigorous, and so that it's as Pippa sort of talked around before, it's got the 2 languages. And then sitting at the core of the program as well is subjects such as theory of knowledge. Students do that once a week, and also something called their extended essay, where they do like a mini research project, 4,000 words to do with that. So I think that's some of the differences between them. But yeah, lots of conversations with students around kind of what's appropriate, where are their passions at, and we definitely sort of customize programs for that. I think at each campus, probably like sort of somewhere between say 5 students up towards like a dozen students will take courses. So yeah, the majority do take the full IB diploma, but we also obviously support lots of students with those conversations.
Fantastic, thank you very much.
Can I just clarify one thing on that, that just the courses that we're referring to here are the exact same courses that they would be taking in the IB diploma. So when you're on courses, it's a subset of the IB diploma courses.
All right, so Ted, does that mean that the students who take the courses don't necessarily do the TOK and the extended essay?
Correct. As Andrew said, they'll work with the vice principal, head of grade, to determine which courses of their full set they want to stay with, or whether they're depending on whether they're making that choice at the beginning of the school year or partway through the 2-year program.
Right, okay, so you do allow that adjustment should be necessary halfway through as well. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying. I have a question with regard to assisting the young people who have been through a difficult time in COVID and had, you know, we're returning to normal now, but there has been a great deal of conversation with regard to anxiety and challenges for young people particularly. How do we support students, or what sort of provision do we have to support students who might be finding that adjustment back to the new normal a little bit more challenging than others? So I wonder whether, Rebecca, you would want to step in and just sort of outline some of the support mechanisms that we might have for students.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think one of the amazing things at being at UWCSEA is just the huge number of support options there are in terms of experienced staff around the student. And I would say one of the key people in any student's life is the mentor, who they will meet on a daily basis. So that's kind of a daily touch point with the student, where the role of the mentor is really to know that student, know when they're having a tough time, be able to advocate for them and to direct them to any of the other support that might be needed. So that's a crucial relationship that we want to build straight away with our students. The other is the head of grade, who sort of oversees the learning program for that student, and again can identify when there's additional support needed in any given area. Yes, you know, any student who's kind of experiencing issues with well-being or mental health and needs some more support beyond what that can provide. We have a wonderful team of counsellors on both campuses. They're fantastic, and both counselling spaces are just really welcoming. And also the students can book individual sessions with those counsellors, build relationships with them, and see them for additional support where needed. So huge team around the child, and yeah, lots of opportunities kind of to build connections with adults on campus.
Fantastic, thank you. Thank you very much. Which actually sort of brings me to one of the other questions that we have here in terms of parents and their involvement in their child's learning, and their involvement and ability to touch base with the mentor or the head of grade or the child's teachers. How often and what sort of reporting and structures do we have in place in the high school for parents to connect with the school and with regard to their child or their child's learning? Seema or Pippa, I see you have your hand up. Thank you.
Yep, that's okay. Absolutely. I mean, obviously, for any parent, staying in touch with how your child is doing as they progress through high school is really important. So we have a number of touch points throughout the 2 years of grade 9 and 10, and also then with grade 11 and 12. We always start each academic program with a Meet the Teacher opportunity, where we invite our high school parents who are new to the courses. This year we had all of our parents on campus to come in and to meet as a class all of your child's teachers. It gives you an opportunity to get used to the campus, to see exactly the experience that your children are experiencing, and to get a flavour of what education in in the high school is like for your child. We have a number of reporting mechanisms. Obviously, we have our reporting grades, which will give you an indication of how well your child is doing on their courses at that particular moment in time. And those reports will come to you twice a year, one about halfway through the year and one more towards the end of the year. And that's one particular touchstone. That gives feedback on your child's academic achievement, but we also have our approaches to learning. And our approaches to learning really focus on 3 of the core skills of our UWCSEA profile. And it's those skills that are most closely aligned with the skills that your child will need in order to be able to do well academically. So we give feedback on their self-management, their collaboration, and their communication skills as they go through at those 2 reporting times as well. But I think one of our key ways of communicating with parents are the 2 student parent teacher conferences that we will have each year for your child, which gives you an opportunity to talk to your teacher, your child's teacher in each of the subject areas, to get more detailed feedback on how they're doing, what their strengths are, and what they might need to do to improve. So between the reports, the SPTCs, our ATL reports, and the Meet the Teacher, there are quite regular checkpoints as they go throughout the year and throughout the course.
Fantastic. Thanks, Pippa. That's fantastic. Damien, Ted, or Kate, do you have anything further to add on that at all for East Campus?
No, very comprehensive. Thank you. Yep, very good. Thanks, Pippa.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And can I just check, this is one further question, and I guess it plays into a little bit with regard to the assessments and how the students are going. But in terms of exams, what is the process for exams? I know that there's obviously the end of IB exams, but how do we prepare students for those exams? And particularly if they join in grade 9 or grade 10 and they don't necessarily undergo the external examination process, how do we prepare them for the exams and help them to understand that process if they haven't actually been through an external examination previously? Kate?
Yeah, I mean, the process is exactly the same, whether they're actually going on to sit GCSE exams or not, they're still prepared for the examination experience. I think just on the UWC programme, you get a number of other types of assessments by which to gauge understanding and skills. But there is still that end of year exam on both programmes for grade 9, at the end of grade 9, and there's the end of year exam for grade 10 as well. One called GCSE exams and the other called end of year exams for the UWC programme. So exactly the same preparation.
Okay, fantastic. And in terms of students who join in grade 11, and Ted, maybe you would want to take this one, what sort of preparation do we have for them?
The preparation would be through mock exams at the end of grade 11, grade 11 exams, and then mock exams in grade 12 as well. So they get a couple of opportunities to have that fun experience of sitting in the exam hall and being ready for their final exams.
Right, okay, thank you very much. I think we're pretty much out of time. We've got time for one more question or perhaps one more reflection. I guess I've got quite a number of questions in here. Some of them are very particular and some of them with regard to the differences between the campuses. I think it's fairly unfair to ask our leadership teams on both campuses to say what they think the differences might be and why we should choose one campus or the other. But Seema, perhaps you'd like to share.
Yeah, as a new member to UWCSEA, I think it would be more pertinent to talk about the similarities, to be honest, rather than the differences. And, you know, I've had the opportunity to work really closely with Damien and visit East Campus. And actually what struck me was how similar the campuses are in terms of their culture, their approaches to, you know, providing holistic education, and even the look and the feel of the schools. Yeah, I think there are many, many more similarities, and you know, I'd rather focus on that than the differences, to be honest. Yeah.
Fantastic. So, and were you expecting that, Seema, for it to be quite so?
No, I wasn't actually, to be really honest. I was expecting it to be very different. I don't know why, but that was my perception. and it's been, you know, really, even with the boarding house, when we had UWC Day, both the leadership teams went over to East, and our boarders were over there, and we had a celebration. And to be honest, you couldn't tell whether a student or a member of staff was at Dover or East at all. Very collegial, collaborative, and really proud to be part of UWCSEA.
Yes, thank you, Seema. That's actually a lovely reflection in terms of the idea of a one college, two campuses, and building a community that has the same values and the same mission on each. So thank you so much. Damien, did you want to, you've joined recently as well, although a couple of, maybe 2 years ago now, was it? And do you have a reflection to add to that?
You should have just left Seema on that final note. It was quite lovely. No, I was surprised as well. But the more time I spend here is just more, and I love that framing around the similarities. We work with each other daily across all aspects of the whole college. So no, I'm super proud to be here as well, and my kids are thriving. So yeah, all seems to be working.
And fantastic, thank you. Well, I think I'll invite the admissions team to come on now, and I will say a very big and a very heartfelt thank you to the high school leadership teams for sharing your experiences and your time today. I know that you are busy people and that you will need, and I've kept you 1 minute past our agreed time already. So thank you so much. And we'll move on to a Q&A with the admissions team now, and we'll let you get back to your real jobs, which is looking after our beautiful high schools. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you very much, leadership team. And I just want to do a quick welcome to our admissions staff who will slowly be coming on screen now. Wonderful. So just a quick reminder that this isn't going to be a full admissions presentation. We've already done that, called Admissions Explained, that was filmed on the 7th of September. So if you haven't had the chance to view that presentation yet, please do so after this event. It will be very informative for you, but we hope to be able to answer some of your questions while you're with us. But just by quick introduction, I'd like to welcome you to Maria Wee. And Maria is our admissions manager at our Dover campus. And Ashu Garg is our admissions manager at our East campus. And we're also joined by Caitlin Go, who is our boarding admissions officer for both campuses. And I'm going to hand back over to you, Kate, for moderating this session. Thank you very much for helping us out, Kate, today.
That's my pleasure. I'll try not to ask any very difficult questions like what do we need to write in our student statement, very particularly because I know the answer to that one actually is the student needs to write exactly what it is that their response is rather than to the parents. But I just wonder if there is any further I guess, reassurance that you can give to the parents, and perhaps this might be you, Katie, with regard to letting their child actually write the student statement without parental or other support, shall we say. So is there any further reassurance you can give to the audience with regard to the student statement?
Yes, absolutely, Kate, and thank you for that question. So it really is an opportunity for us to hear the student's voice. So do leave this to the student to do. Take a step back, let their words flow, let their passions come out in their written work. We can detect if it's a parent that's written it. We have a very good antennae now for working out if a parent has completed that student statement. So really do let the words of the student come through, because it is one of the most interesting parts of our reviewing of an application, and we really want to get to the heart of why the student wants to join us, what their passions are, what they believe in, and what they would like to take forward when they join us at UWC. So parents, step back, give it to the students to do. Thank you, Kate.
Fantastic, Katie, thank you. Maria, perhaps I could ask you, apart from the student statement and filling in the online application form in full, and submitting it together with the application fee, what other documents do we need to support an application? And is there any difference between the documents that we would need for a grade 9 or 10 applicant versus a grade 11 applicant?
Okay, thanks for the question, Kate. The main thing is that it's mandatory for all applications, be it for kindergarten or even up to high school, that it's the parents have to complete the applications, which Kate did mention, all the general questions, including uploading the last 2 full academic year reports, plus the most term reports at the time when you put in application. And those reports, if they're not in English, it has to be notarized and translated and notarized. So we do need to have all full notarized and translated reports together with the original reports. So I'm just reiterating the last 2 full academic year reports plus the most recent one at the time of you putting application. And we do appreciate that some schools give out semestral reports, termly reports. We do need the full academic year reports. So if the schools did give quarterly reports, we do need quarter 1, 2, 3, 4, term 1, 2, 3, and semester 1 and 2. Hope that answers the question. And that will be a fully submission of reports, including with other documentary documents, which will be the birth certificates of the child, valid passport copies, photographs, which will be on JPEG, and also the part, I would say, if the child is a resident in Singapore, then we do need the immigration details of the child. Thank you.
Right. And can someone apply even if they're not resident in Singapore?
Oh, yes, we do welcome overseas applications. So for those children who are based in, not in Singapore, we do need the immigration details when we offer a place to the child, and when the child is accepted and offered, then that's when the parent will need to submit the immigration details. Thank you.
Fantastic, thank you. So we can take overseas applications for both day and boarding students.
Yeah. Right. And we do welcome that.
Great, thank you. And Caitlin, can you give me an idea, please, because I know that you look after all the boarding applications. Is there any other documentation that's needed for a boarding application?
Thank you, Kate. So in terms of the documents, they are the same between boarding and day applicants, just that on the online application system, you'll find an extra boarding section of the application that parents have to complete. That's all.
Right, okay. And once they've completed an application and submitted it, what's the process then? And perhaps, Asha, you might want to just give an idea about what happens once we've submitted an application with all the documents uploaded. What happens then? Is there any other interviews and tests that the students might need to take, or actions from the parents?
Sure, happy to answer that. Thank you, Kate. So once your application is submitted and it's received by our admissions team, it will be one of our team members would be handling it. We divide sort of the applications that we receive by family names. So typically one of our admissions officer who will be looking after that particular alphabet will then take care of all the siblings from that particular family, or all the for that family's applications. So we will verify that all the documents are completed. We will send you an acknowledgement within 10 days of receiving the application, 10 to 15 days of receiving your application. Subsequent to that, your application is reviewed by our teachers or our directors of admission, and then we will let you know if we need any additional information, or we may contact your child's current school if we need any additional information. This is usually in the event that you're based overseas and you're applying for a K1 or a K2 at East Campus. We may need some additional information on the child and we can't possibly meet the child, so we will write to the school for that additional information. Typically for those students who are based in Singapore for K1 and K2, we invite them to the campus for a meet and play session, which is more of an observational play-based session, just to see the child, how they are and whether they are, developing their readiness for the particular point of entry that they're looking at. K2 applications, as you are aware, or if you don't know, that it's generally for East Campus only. So this is for the younger years. Coming into junior school and middle school, we don't do any assessments for them except for learning needs.
So those kind of assessments we may do for them. But in high school, and today especially when we're talking about high school open day, webinar, we're talking about the high school learning program. So we need to hold some sort of evaluation or assessment for them. So it's generally a virtual immersion program. And we do interviews for our high school applicants. And we may be asking for language samples for grade 11, language writing samples for the grade 11 applicants. So depending on whether their first language is not English, we would ask for a writing sample of their first language or their foreign language continuation or acquired language that they're looking at. We would also, if the first language is not English, then we may invite those applicants for an English assessment. That's again done virtually. And then we have on the day of the interview, we also do an activities forum with our current students. So, and I think Caitlin would like to add something to that. Maybe the boarding applicants do something slightly different. Caitlin?
Thank you, Ashu. For boarding, it's very much the same process. Application comes in. But all the boarding applications will come to me, regardless of the first letter of your surname. Yeah, they all come to me, and I will get back to you to make the arrangements for the virtual immersion program. The virtual immersion program basically have two parts, like what Ashu has mentioned. So there is an individual interview. So if you're applying for boarding, it will be an interview with one of the boarding house parents. And then after that, you join the other applicants for a group session where you have some games, forum discussions, for that. So, and then after that, we will let you know if your child has met the entrance criteria and made it into the selection round.
Fantastic, thank you.
Can I just jump in, Kate? Sorry, mid-flow.
It might be the same thing.
Yeah, just to clarify to families whose children have English as a second language, if we deem that after reviewing the application that we feel that the student will need to take an EAL test, that will happen first. So we will send that virtual test to your child. They'll complete that virtually, and then we'll assess to see whether they've made our entry criteria for their second language, for their English level. If they have, we'll then take them through to the virtual immersion program. If they haven't, unfortunately, their application will stop there and they won't join us for the virtual immersion program. But that is a slight change to our processes from last year, just in case we have anybody that's reapplying who unfortunately we weren't able to offer a place for grade 9 or grade 10 last year. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Katie. Can I so that wasn't actually what I was going to clarify. I was actually going to ask you with regard to if students are coming in to do a particular course because it's something that they are passionate about or they would like to specialize in, and we offer the course. So for example, dance or film or design technology, or even a particular HL maths course, for instance. What do we do assessments there? And how do we decide? How does that?
Absolutely. So we don't for most courses. As Ashu touched on and Caitlin touched on, we do have to check that a language other than English is within reach of a student, whether it's at the standard level or higher level, if they're applying for grade 11. Currently, we do ask for some more information for students applying for music, for art and for DT. So that's currently, that might change in the future. But currently we do just to make sure that a student can access the program, again, either at a standard level or higher level. So those are the kind of things that we're looking for. But for all other subjects, no, we don't offer any further assessments or exams for students who are applying for grade 11 or for grade 10 or for grade 9.
Thank you. Thank you very much for clarifying that, Katie. So just to confirm, we don't actually need the applicant to come to Singapore at any point in their application. Is that correct?
Absolutely correct, Kate. It was something that we offered in the past, but now COVID did us a great favour, put everything online. So everything is done virtually, which is wonderful for the environment. It stops having families having to fly in, especially for this event. So we do everything virtually, and it's been a great success so far. Thanks for checking on that, Kate.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Katie. I just know that that's a question that we have had quite a lot of in the past. I just want to circle back to the writing samples. So we ask for the student statement to be written in English by the student themselves and no parent to write that particular part of the application. There's the form that's downloadable on the actual website, which can then be filled in and scanned and uploaded. But in terms of, Asha, you mentioned writing samples previously. So what sort of writing samples are we asking for then, given that we already have the student statement in English?
Thank you, Kate. Yeah, actually, that is more to do with the language choice, and that's mainly for grade 11s. So supposing a student is planning to apply, I mean, when they're submitting their application, they're also filling out the online language subject option form. And in that, if they tell us that they want to do, they'll be doing Japanese A. So, or Japanese as a first language, then to determine whether their skills or capabilities are at that right level, we will ask them to complete a Japanese language, anything that they've done in their school, which has been graded. They can share that with us, which will be then reviewed by our teachers, and they will say yes, whether they're able to do a Japanese A or not. So it's basically for that. So it could be for any other language other than English that they're looking to do. Not for a beginner language though at the IB, it's only for grade 11, and it's only a continuation or a first language that we're looking at. Thank you.
Great. Okay. So in terms of that, if that's just for grade 11, what happens with the student selection of their language for grade 9 and 10? Do we require that pre-selection when people are applying to the college for the language?
No, not for grade 9 and not for grade 10. They can actually, that selection is done only subject to when we are making an offer. That's when we will send out the subject option forms to them and they will fill up their subjects. They don't have to give us a writing sample for, except at East Campus for grade 9, we do a French language diagnostic test. We will send that out once the family has confirmed that the child is taking up French. We'd like to send out that diagnostic form to complete, so that we are able to, our teachers are able to see whether they are at a level, what level are they at, so they can then support them in school.
Fantastic, thank you. I have a couple of questions with regard to entry halfway through a year in the high school. Is that possible at all? Katie, do you want to take this one? Can they switch halfway through an IGCSE? Can we start in January rather than only in August?
So currently, no. Currently, we only allow a K1 to grade 8 entry for January, which is our term 2 of a 3-term academic year. That might again change in the future. So if anybody is joining us today who are thinking about applying in a couple of years' time, watch this space. It might change for the future. But currently, no, we only allow an August start at the beginning of an academic year for grade 9, grade 10 and grade 11.
And if a student wants to change from halfway through an IGCSE course in grade 9, and they're leaving at the end of grade 9, they will need to come into the to the grade 10 courses rather than take up the IGCSE. Is there any possibility of switching in to an IGCSE course?
At grade 10?
At grade 10.
Unfortunately not, no, because it is a 2-year program, the IGCSE program. Coming in at grade 10 is nearly virtually impossible. From time to time, we've had exactly the same question where a student is transferring from another IGCSE program to us, wanting to join grade 10 IGCSE. It is a very, very rarely are we able to match everything up very carefully to allow that student to go through to grade 10. And sometimes it's virtually, well, the majority of the time it's virtually impossible. So we don't allow a grade 10 IGCSE start at the beginning of an academic year.
Great, thank you. And in terms of starting in grade 9 in the IGCSE, if a student is moving in and they have just selected their subjects and they want to do those subjects if they join us for grade 9, is it possible for them to say, this is what I'd like to do when I'm joining in grade 9, because these are the subjects that I'd like to take? So can they, because we do have a very wide range of subjects, is it something that they can specify as they apply? And will they know when they're accepting an offer?
So as Ashu touched upon, we're very interested to know what students' passions are with their subjects, and that sometimes comes through in their student statement. But we actually don't need to know what a student's subject is until we're at that point of offer. And when we make the offer, we send you the list of subjects that the student is able to choose from. And it's at that point then that student will be able to choose their package or their selection of subjects to then take them through either that first year of the grade 9 if they're doing the UWC courses, or through those 2-year program if they're choosing the IGCSE. And as Kate has touched on, we have a huge range of different subjects, so we are able to accommodate most people's passions and interests through the grade 9 and grade 10 program.
Great. And does that work the same way in grade 11 applications? Do we ask the applicant to select their subjects as they're making the application? And can they change that selection after they've been made the offer? Katie, over to you. Since
good question, Kate. So for grade 11, slightly different. We do ask the students to present their possible package to us at the beginning of their application process. So part of the application will require them to fill out their 3 higher level subjects and their 3 standard level subjects. And then that allows us to probe a little bit more with regards to that academic language piece that we would need to ascertain their level for their language other than English, and for their music, their art, and their DT as well. So that's why we require it at the beginning, but we don't tie the student to those decisions all the way through to when they start. If they need to make some changes, we'll be very happy to take that, make sure that it works within our timetable, and then can confirm those changes to the student. And sometimes even when the student starts and enrolls at the college, if they feel as though they've made a slight mistake and they want to take a subject at a higher level, but they're taking it at standard level, there is the ability to have a little bit of flexibility at the start of their course to shift a subject from a standard to a higher, or a higher to a standard. So you're right, we do ask for that information first, but we don't tie the student into that decision all the way through their admissions process.
Fantastic, thank you. Thank you for clarifying that, Katie. Actually, I'd like to circle back to the virtual immersion program. And Maria, perhaps you can help us with this, because I've just noticed someone who is thinking of applying again because they applied for grade 9 and they're looking at a grade 10 application now. If their child has already gone through the virtual immersion process for 1 year, would they need to do that again for the next year?
Yes, unfortunately, it has to be, because it's an annual application. So the annual application processes kicks in for every high school students, even if they are keen for a reapplication. Now, as Ashu did mention about the VIP, and likewise Katie did mention about the VIP, following our initial eligibility review of the application, applicants who meet our entry criteria are invited to attend the VIP, be it a new fresh applicant or a reapplicant. Now, to ensure a diverse group of participants and VIP timings that suit the applicants' time zones, because I did mention about we do welcome applications that are coming from overseas. Each applicant is assigned to a particular date. So parents are given at least 2 weeks notice of the date and the time of the VIP. And we tend to target around 14 applicants. So applicants participate in discussion, as both my colleagues Katie and Ashu did mention. They have to participate in discussion forum, activities led by the admission staff and UWCSEA High School students. So in addition, also all applicants are also interviewed by a member of high school or boarding teams, depending on whether they are applying for a day or boarding applications. So we do want the opportunity to be given to this reapplicant for them to really share their interests also on why they are wanting to reapply to the school. And likewise, also, we do encourage them for reapplicants to submit a new fresh student statement, because that will give them the opportunity to add on any additional things that they have worked on in the previous years that we would like to know further. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Thanks, Maria.
Yeah, do you mind if I jump in at this point? I just have something to add. So in addition to what Maria has shared, so the places that we have on hand are actually offered out over 2 selection rounds, once in January and once in April. So, and for each round, we'll run a series of the virtual immersion programs. So some parents have asked, if my child does not get selected in round 1, does my child have to attend the VIP again in order to be considered in round 2? So the answer is no, you don't have to. Your child's name will just remain in the pool for round 2. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And Caitlin, now that you have joined the conversation again, I do have a question for you. In terms of the applications, I have one very particular question and one that's a little bit broader. So the particular question first. If someone makes an application as a day student and then actually they are not moving to Singapore, but they would still like their child to come as a boarder, is it possible to switch from a day application to being a boarding application?
Okay, so if the application has come in and the parents, during the course of the admission process, parents find that their plans have changed, they are not moving, yes, they can ask to change the application into a boarding application. So we'll just make some adjustments to the online application. We'll ask the parents to fill in the boarding section of the application, and then we'll update it. They might have to make some top up of the application fee and so forth. And then after that, if the child has already attended the virtual immersion program, we might still ask the child to have another interview with the house parent and so forth. Yeah, it gets a little bit trickier if the offer has been made and we're at the end of the admission cycle, and then the parents whose child has been offered a day place realize that they are not able to move to Singapore. Then at that point, we'll have to have a look at whether we still have boarding places available. Is there still a way to, offer a place to the child? So it's really on a case-by-case basis, and it depends on when that request comes. Okay. So yeah, thank you.
Fantastic. And before I get on to the next part of that, you've actually just reminded me in terms of the number of places that we have available in boarding for each academic year. And then also I wonder if Katie, perhaps you could give us an overview of the number of places we have in general for day students in the high school as well. So Caitlin, over to you first for the boarding piece, please.
All right, okay. So we have a very small boarding community at each campus, and about half the boarding community are filled with our grade 11 and 12 students. The number of places to offer is not definite each year because it really depends on the movement of the boarding students, how many grade 12 graduate, and then the other grades move up, how many may withdraw from boarding. So, and then from there, we'll work out and allocate the boarding places for each grade. Typically, on a very rough estimate, we'll be looking at anything between 15 to 25 places for each of the high school grade. Yeah, thank you.
Right, okay, so that's for boarding particularly. Katie, what about day students?
Yes, so day places, well, for the whole grade places that we have available, that changes. So what we have advertised is what we are estimating But things may change because we have more withdrawals than we were expecting, so we can make further offers. So that's the good news. So we're looking at approximately 42 places for grade 9. So that's day and boarding places. And grade 10, approximately 36, and grade 11, approximately 50 on each campus. So the good news is that that number can increase when we know that current families may be withdrawing because they are moving away from Singapore. So that allows us then to continue to make more offers as time goes on.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Katie. And so, Caitlin, I'm coming back to that other boarding question. It's the final boarding question, and it's the second last question we'll be able to have time for today. Caitlin, in terms of making an application to boarding, are there any particular considerations in terms of what they include in the application, and what's the difference between how you look at those boarding applications to how your colleagues might look at the day applications? Are there any different considerations that are additional to what might be?
Okay. Yeah, so when the child applies for as a boarding applicant, the child will need to meet both the entrance criteria into the college as well as into boarding. So yeah, so that's why the applicant will need to go through the interview with the one of the boarding house parents or the director of residential life themselves. So through the interview, our boarding house parents or director of residential life can get to know the student a little bit better and to try and ascertain if the child's suitability and the readiness to join the boarding community. So that's would be the main additional consideration when it comes to a boarding applicant. Yeah.
So it would be including information that helps them to get to know the child as a boarder rather than just as an academic student. Or
yes. So yeah. So when the parents are filling in the application, because we do ask for the contact details of academic staff member in their current school that we can get in touch with if we need any further information. So if the child is already currently boarding in another school, then we would prefer that is the contact of the current boarding house mistress or housemaster that we can get in touch with.
Right, okay. Yeah. So much. And so this is the final question, and it is an easy one actually. So perhaps so someone could put their hand up and say, I'd like to take that. How, once you've put that application in, how do we communicate with families? And are there any particular hard deadlines in terms of when we require applications, and how do we communicate and require responses from families in this process?
I'm happy to respond, and my colleagues can jump in if I get my dates wrong. So we do have a couple of hard deadlines, Kate, as you said. We have 2 application deadline dates. So our first application deadline date will be the 4th of November. So if a family has met that application date and we're able to process the application form in time, everything's in place, they've had their virtual immersion program, they've completed their EAL test for those that need it, we will then be able to consider them for the first round of offers, which will be in January of 2023. And then if a family didn't apply by that deadline, but they apply by our next deadline, which is the 3rd of February, we will also we will be able to consider them in our second round of offers, which will be in March of 2023. And if a family didn't get an offer in that first round, that application will flow through to the second round. Just like Caitlin said, there's no need to take another VIP session, a virtual immersion program. That application will be considered for round 2 if they made the first application deadline. What was the other part of your question, Kate?
It was, how do we communicate with families? What's the expected protocol around that?
My colleagues, would you like to carry on from this point onwards? Ashu or Maria?
Okay, in addition to Katie's remarks about how the process is, to align with the application deadlines, which we refer to round 1, which is the 4th November, round 2, 3rd of February, applicants are scheduled for the VIPs for the round 1 will be from October to December. And then for the round 2, the VIPs will be slated in for from January to March. Our communication with parents are usually emails, but we do welcome parents if they feel that they would like to pick up a call, have a discussion with us, we're happy to do so. But generally, all communications are via email. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, everybody, for your time today. I'm going to hand back to Katie to farewell everyone and provide a couple of reminders. But I'd just like to thank everybody in the audience for joining us during this process of Q&A today, and for the webinar. And hope that if you are able to join us in Singapore at our 2 campuses on Thursday and Friday for the open days, I'll pop the link to how to sign up to that into the chat. And if you are not in Singapore and you are still considering boarding for us, we also have a boarding webinar tomorrow, and I'll pop the link for the sign up for that one in the chat as well if you haven't already signed up for that. So thank you very much, and back to you, Katie.
Thank you, Kate. You've done my job in all those reminders. That's wonderful. Thank you very much, Kate. So it just is left for me to thank you again for joining us today. And if you have signed up to any of our on-campus tours, we're very much looking forward to seeing you on our campuses very soon. So from all of us at UWCSEA, thank you for your time, and we hope to connect with you again very, very soon. Thank you, and bye-bye.